Namaste. Before we start on with the interview, please don't forget to click subscribe for the next video that it's gonna come up, and here we go. Welcome back everyone in another YouTube video where we're gonna be continuing the other 40 questions remaining that the recruiters would possibly ask them during your assessment day, during your interview. And therefore, I would like to say, first of all, thank you everyone who have taken their time to send me so many amazing messages from the first video that you guys really like the answers. And many of the messages were saying that you guys really liked that I went straight to the point on every question. Now, I would like to clarify this thing. Remember, when you are going for your assessment day, when you are having an interview along with the recruitment team, please bear in mind that you're not the only person they're talking to that day, and that they really appreciate whenever you have been asked a question that you go straight away to the point. And if you start with an introduction of the answer of the question that you are going to be answering later on, then you go to the main part, then you go to the conclusion, believe me, the recruitment team will stop you and will ask you another question just to see how well you're gonna focus on the second question, how fast you are able to fit in with the new question. Are you a fast thinker in first place? So to cut yourself from going blank and going straight away to the second question, where in the first question you still haven't finished your answer, please, when you're giving the answer of every question, go straight to the point. Don't make introduction, don't make main part, don't make conclusion. These three things, you can include them if an essay is asked to be written. Every essay should have a structure, should have an introduction of what you're trying to say, should have a main part, that's the answer of the tema, of the title that you're writing about, and last but not the least is the conclusion, few sentences of how you're going to finish the essay. So therefore, answering a question is not an essay. Answering a question is going straight to the point. We're continuing straight on with the 40 question on today's video. What are the positive threats that you don't have? Now, when it comes to this question, I would like to clarify one thing. The recruiters are not looking for the perfect person without having any threats, with being perfect, with knowing everything. They want to know, are you self-aware? Do you possess self-awareness? And what do you do about that self-awareness? So I would answer this question like this. I love receiving feedback, but sometimes for me it's really hard to give feedback to someone. But I've started working on this, and I've started practicing this first with my family and with my friends. Whenever there is something that I don't like, or I think that they should do better, I start a conversation in which I suggest how things can be done better, as I said, with my family and with my friends. And I believe strongly that I can work on this ability to be able to provide feedback later on whenever it's going to be needed to my colleagues. But definitely, I'm a very open person. I love to receive feedback, and I think that receiving feedback is important when it comes to improving my job in daily basis. So what this tells to the recruiter? This tells to the recruiter that you're completely aware of an area that you are not so good at, but at the same time you have started doing something about that area. You can also mention here things like you are not good in programming, for example. You are not good so much into computers, but however, you have learned the programs Word, you have learned Excel, PowerPoint, the things that you are needed and you're required to use them in your daily base as a cabin crew. So therefore, the recruiters would like to know which area you are not good at, and what are you doing about it. At the same time, it's important to be honest, but not too honest. Don't say, please, I'm not a patient person and I'm working on my patience. Even if you're not a patient person, and if you are working on your patience, it would be not recommended that you say this thing as a threat. So therefore, please think reasonably, When you're giving this answer, go straight away to the point, as we said, and make sure that you assure the recruiter that whatever you are aware of, you are doing something at the moment, improving yourself in that area, and believe me, they will appreciate this. Qualities you think are important for dealing effectively with customers, and provide an example of when you have displayed this. Again, this question, it can be answered from a point of view if you haven't had any customer experience, you were a customer, or if you had customer experience. So for example, if you had a customer experience and you were working in a hotel, you can always say that an effective qualities or skills or qualities that are effective when it comes to dealing with the customer is someone who thinks resourcefully. Very often in the customer service industry, the customers require information, require assistance that is not included in the job description that you are doing. For example, you are working in a hotel, you have been working in a hotel, and there comes a gentleman or a lady at the reception asking you for car rental. And in the hotel where you were working, there is no car rental service. You have an option of saying, I'm so sorry, ma'am, sir, we do not have any car rental service. You can have a look yourself and deal with it. Or if you are thinking resourcefully, you don't want that customer to go and leave the reception unattended, you can take a minute of your time, open the internet, check few car rental companies, and find the contact numbers, or perhaps even contact them for the customers and say, ma'am, sir, I've taken the time, here are the numbers that I found for you, and perhaps if you would like, I can assist you with contacting this car rental companies, and I can assist you in your further query and queries that you have on this matter. So what are you showing to this customer? That you are resourceful, you have the internet, you do not hesitate to use it, even when you don't have this service included in the services that the hotel you're working for is offering it. Now, if you haven't had a customer experience service, you can always mention an example where you were a customer, you asked for a particular service that wasn't available there, and a lady or the gentleman who was assisting you assisted you maybe perhaps in the similar manner that I have mentioned, but go straight to the point. I again say this is very important. You must say a particular example that subjectively has happened to you, you have experienced that, and that you appreciated that the person who was assisting you took their time, were initiative, and were resourceful enough to look for a solution and anticipate the problem you were in that particular situation. Do you work better in a team or alone? Interesting question. Obviously, everyone should answer this question. Yes, I definitely work in a team better than alone. But don't forget to mention, I have said this before, sometimes there are situations in which you are required to be able to work alone. So you can always say, definitely I'm a team player, I'd like to work in a team, but at the same time, for example, when dealing in a first aid situation, I have to be the one who's going to be administering CPR to the person. I must do that alone, and I'm not hesitating also to do things alone. So I am able to do both, but I enjoy so much working with the team, and therefore I consider myself as a team player or a part of a team. How would your friends or co-workers describe you? You can always say this question, you have to ask them, make a joke on this question, because it allows you to joke. Every question allows you to joke and show a free spirit of yours. But definitely one thing you can say about you, honest, of course, as I've said in the previous answers, please be honest, because if you're faking your outgoing personality, if you're faking that you love talking to people, the recruitment team will be able to see that. So I would answer this question that I'm a very outgoing person, I'm fun, I always share jokes, and whenever I am surrounded with my friends, we always have a good time because I smile and I contribute towards creating a good and positive atmosphere, and I truly believe that these are the qualities that my friends will be saying about me. if you have any other things that your friends are or coworkers are able to mention about you, or you are a very helpful person, for example, you are when you're finishing with your job, you always go and assist your colleagues at work, you never hesitate to do that, and you believe that your friends are able to see that, please go ahead and say it, go straight to the point, and believe me, the recruitment team will appreciate that. Tell me about the time when you helped someone. Irrespectively of the question, you have a customer experience or you don't have. Just mention any situation, particular situation, when family member, friend, someone you didn't know asked for your help or didn't ask for your help. You observed that that person needed a help and you didn't hesitate to do that. Please mention this example. Don't start the question, yeah, I love helping people. Helping people is priority in my life. Yes, definitely. You should be loving helping people. When this question has been asked, go straight to the point and explain a particular example when you helped the person. For me, I do that in daily basis. I'm sure many of you are doing that. If I see an elderly person that's struggling to cross the street, has a lot of bags, I always go, I take the bags. I think this comes from the airplane, from working in the airplane. I take the bags, I help that person to pass the street, help her with the luggage if she has an extra luggage, struggling to come out from a taxi, from a car. I am, I wouldn't say I'm very helpful, but I'm observing when a person needs a help and always grab that particular situation where, for example, you were in Starbucks, you see this lady was struggling to ask coffee, there was a language barrier between the sale gentleman and her. You ask her where she's from, you've opened the Google Translate, you've helped her. There's so many situations in which anyone can be in. Just think of that situation and give that answer of yours. Tell me about a time when you had a suggestion to improve business. This can be related to your job where you have been working at the customer experience, or doesn't matter if it's a customer experience, or perhaps you observed and you appreciated when someone has done this in your family. This is a very objective question, but yet when you are giving an answer about this question, please try to look for a particular example where you participated or you observed that this has actually happened. So I would answer this question like this. I have a friend of mine, she has a cosmetic salon and she does nails in her cosmetic salon. So she hasn't had included in her business the service of pedicure, and I have suggested to her that since this is a service that I would like to have it in one place, I suggested to her that this might be beneficial for her if she includes, beside the manicure in her cosmetic salon, the pedicure service as well. After a couple of months and most probably few of her customers asking her this question, she included this service and she really benefited from the same, to the point that one time she gifted me her pedicure service for free, and she told me that she really appreciated that I give her the suggestion for her business to include this as a valid factor. And yeah, that was one time when I had suggested a situation on improving business, and it was my friend who had the cosmetic salon. You can always relate a particular example, or if, as I said, if you haven't have any customer experience, you haven't had any suggestion, mention a particular situation in which you observed that based on someone's suggestion, some business got improved, and you appreciate that. That's how you're showing that you have an attention to be observant, and you have remembered that situation as something that will help you in future, perhaps to do the same, and the recruiters would really like it. Tell me about the most fun you ever experienced on your job. This answer lies particularly in you. Again, think of a time when you had the most fun in your job. In my previous job as a cabin service director, I had lots of fun on the layovers. Few layovers I will always remember, and I can always say that, for example, going to Taj Mahal with a few crew members from Poland and from India. We had loads of fun. It was amazing. We shared such a positive energy. We really loved the place we went, and we spent the entire 12 hours. The entire 12 hours that we spent, it felt like just a couple of hours because we had such a good time, and we gathered so many information. Just mention a particular situation where you really enjoyed. Perhaps you did bungee jumping with friends, you went to Dubai, or you went to Houston. Doesn't matter, any situation that you are able to describe the emotion. And what the recruiters are basically trying to see is what kind of fun you are showing. Perhaps for some people fun is sitting on a table full of loads of food. For some people it's sharing a lot of laughing among the team, among the people who you are surrounded with. They are looking for your emotions, and in this situation you must show, and as in every question that you're going to be answering, you must show that you were enjoying that time and you had fun and you took that moment with lots of passion and emotion. They will definitely like it. What techniques and tools do you have to keep yourself organized? Being in the airline industry for quite some time, being a graduated student from Police Academy, really talks about me being very organized and very disciplined, to the point that it's sometimes unbearable for my husband. But definitely, if you are an unorganized person, you're a messy person, please try to find a particular answer when you are answering this question in a way that, for example, when you have a busy agenda during the day, you are trying to divide the time properly according to the things that you're supposed to be doing. For example, you're going to work, and after work you are having your 1 or 2 hours to exercise. You're keeping that agenda of yours organized, or when it comes to organizing the place where you're living, you are preferring boxing things. You don't want to keep the things around your room lying everywhere, because believe me, the type of organized person that you are in your private life are very much going to affect your flying career, because the aircraft is a tiny little space that unorganized people, if they work in it, will make a hell for the other people. And the crew that are flying, and if are listening to me talking about this in this video, they know how right I am. So therefore, being an organized person is very important, and try to look for that particular answer of yours where you're gonna say how you're trying to organize things. One thing I told you is boxing things in your apartment. Where do you live? As in stowing and knowing exactly where your pens are, where your notebooks are, where your chargers are. For example, for me, beside a boxing, my room and my bed is always made. I never leave my bed messy. All the things that are lying around must be stowed, and I must have I have an organized and clean space where I'm spending my time. At the same time, at your work, how do you keep your desk organized? Just say a particular situation, describe it, how you are organizing things in your life in general. Give me an example of a time that you felt you went above and beyond the call of duties at your work, at your previous work. This is a very straightforward question, and to the most probably, if you have had experience and you have been employed before, you're gonna get this question. I seriously don't think that if you have no work experience, the recruiters will definitely not ask you about this question, for the simple reason is that you don't have any work experience, and therefore you wouldn't know when you went beyond the expectations, so beyond the call of the duty in this question. So for me, I would say I went beyond the call of the duty is when I stayed overtime. I wasn't asked to stay at my work overtime, but I observed that my colleagues were struggling. For example, again, I'm connecting this to the reception and to the hotel. You observed that it was a peak time, it was a busy time. You had few teams checking in at that time. You're supposed to leave at 3 o'clock, but you saw that your colleagues were busy doing the checking in, and you said to your manager, you know what, I'm staying here for 1 more hour or 2 hours helping my colleagues because I observed that they need it, and therefore later on your manager, the outcome is also important to mention it, that your manager wrote you a personal email thanking you on this matter, and you got appreciated. And of course, whenever something like this is necessary, you are able to do it from your heart, and that you are definitely a teamwork player. So you can always relate a particular situation in which you went beyond the expectations of you as an employer in that company and exceeded. What are the steps you follow to study a problem before making a decision? Over here, what the recruiters are looking for, are you so much focused in decision making, or you are at the same time looking of the cause of why that problem has arisen? If you have a situation, for example, when you had a customer who have fainted in front of you, definitely your decision and your solution in this situation is going to be assisting the person, and he has fainted. You're raising the legs for 2 minutes and following all the other first aid procedures. But at the same time, are you able to be observant of perhaps the cause of that problem is because it's too hot in the room where you are, or in the hotel? Are you able to solve that cause for that problem in order to prevent the same problem to be happening? So always mention and answer this question in a way that you are looking for the cause of the problem, because the cause of the problem is definitely helping you bring the right solution and preventing for the same problem to arise again. This is what the recruiters are looking for. Describe a time when your work was criticized. Again, sensitive question, but this would like to show to the recruiter, the answer of this question would be showing to the recruiter how open you are to feedback. Do you value the feedback that has been given to you? Find a particular situation in which your manager or your coworker said to you, Julia, you know what, I think that this situation, or in this particular problem solving, you should have done also this, and it would have affected you better. Please mention a particular example, because the question is requiring a particular example. Don't say, yeah, I love receiving feedback. You're supposed to be loving to receive feedback, but show a situation in which your job has been criticized, you have received feedback, and last but not the least, please mention that you value the time that that person has been sitting with you, talking to you, giving you that feedback, and that is very important part of your learning process in a future improvement and in your future job that you will be doing or that you are still doing. Explain what has disappointed you the most about your previous job. Again, something similar we have discussed in the previous 40 question. Now, in this question, the recruiters are looking for, again, a particular thing that has disappointed you in your previous job. If you have already resigned and you're not there anymore, you can find any answer. For example, you didn't like the fact that your job was from 8 to 5 every day. It was an office job. You were really looking for something more dynamic. It was kind of a routine that you didn't find yourself. You didn't feel that disappointed, but you felt that you need a change that requires a little more dynamic. Answer this question very diplomatically. Yet, if you haven't had any experience, any work experience before, you most probably won't get this question. If you're still currently working, you can also answer in the same way that I told you, and mention it that you're really looking forward to work in the best airline in the world and to have a job that is going to offer you the dynamic that you are looking for, and that you're really thinking that you're going to be able to fit in properly. What is your greatest failure and what did you learn from it? A very sensitive question, requires a lot of thinking, a lot of preparation. Go straight to the point. As I said, I would answer this question that I think that my greatest failure is I did not finish my PhD. What I learned from it, that I am going to be doing my PhD very soon. I'm getting ready for that. And I don't believe that that's now, from this point of view, I don't believe that that now is the greatest failure. I think that that failure is an excellent learning experience and a great motivation for me, that I am dedicating myself to do my PhD as soon as possible. So always when you are talking about something that is a failure and that you think it's a failure, or you're mentioning in this situation, always say that now, from this point of view, as a mature person, you have taken it as a serious motivation that is guiding you to work to solve that, to achieve that on a better way. And don't give the impression to the recruiter that that failure really affected you, that you don't know what to do, you are unsure about it, and at the same time don't answer, no, I have no failures, I'm just a perfect person. No. Find an area that you think that you have not been successful in your life, and you have understood from this point of view that that area now is your motivation to become a better person, to achieve that, so on and so forth. If I were your supervisor and asked you to do something that you disagree with, what would you do? Again, sensitive question. I would answer in this way. If you were my supervisor and you have asked me to do something that is written in the manual, it's written in our job description, and I don't agree with that, I would certainly first talk to you, and maybe we'll tell you that in that particular problem, this solution, although it's in our job description written, would not be the best one, but definitely, since you are a supervisor and you are saying that I must do it, then I will definitely do it because it's written in the manual or in our job description. Then you are safe with this because your supervisor has told you that you should do that. Obviously, the supervisor knows the manual and knows the job, so how things needs to be done. But if you're a supervisor and you're telling me to do something that is not written in the manual, it's not related to our job, and it's wrong, you are completely sure, or I'm completely sure that it's wrong, I am going to be having a discussion with the supervisor, explaining to you or to her that I don't agree that would be the best solution, for the simple reason because it's not included in our manual, in our job. I would tell her that it's wrong, but at the same time, if she insists to do that, then you are going to tell her that upon her command, because she is the supervisor, you will do that thing, but at the same time, as a worker, you are going to highlight this to the management because you know that this is not the best solution. What are the recruiters looking for here is, are you aware of your guidelines? Are you aware of your standards, of your procedures? And are you blankly following what people are telling you, even those things are wrong? Or you have an ability to observe, to disagree, to highlight the mistakes, because mistakes can happen from your part, mistakes can happen from the supervisor point of view, supervisors asking you to do things that are not right. So if you show to the recruiter that you are able to observe and you know what you have been asked is wrong, and you are not just leaving it like that, you're just gonna do it because your supervisor told you to do it, they will really appreciate if you are able to know that what you're doing is wrong. You are yet not underestimating the power of the supervisor, but you're not giving her a complete freedom or to be asking you, basically, as someone whose grade is lower than a supervisor, to do things that are not supposed to be done. Of course, if if this is something safety related and your supervisor is asking you to do things that are safety related and are completely wrong, at no circumstances you are going to do that, because it's for the simple reason safety related things cannot be done if it's, let's say, in the aircraft or whatsoever. But please don't forget to mention that if it's something safety related and if it's wrong, you are going to definitely refuse to do it. When it comes to service, then of course evaluating, talking and taking the further steps that I told you would be much appreciated. When were you most satisfied in your job? Again, personal question to someone who have had a personal experience, who have been working before. Again, please look for a situation when you were very satisfied with your job. I can say that I was happy in my previous job when a customer had lost his watch during the security check-in point, and when he came on board, he was very unhappy about it. And I observed that we had a few more minutes before closing the door. I went myself at the gate and I looked myself for the watch and I found it. When I come back, the smile on the face that the customer had was priceless. We become so good friends. Even today we're friends with this particular passenger because he was so thankful, and this gave me the emotion and gave me the satisfaction that I've done something for this person that he's going to remember for the rest of his life, of course, but at the same time give me this good feeling that he won't be for the next 10 hours sad because he has lost his watch and he's not going to be waiting for it later on. So find a particular situation in which the outcome of that situation, if you had a customer service experience, of course, it will be much appreciated. The outcome of that situation has made you feel good about you, and at the same time, the outcome of that situation was appreciated by the person who was involved in it. Perhaps your colleague, your customer, it can be any. Can you describe a time when you had to be flexible in your job? Again, we spoke about something similar like this in the previous 40 question, and it can be related to many situations. Please find a particular time when you must be flexible, when you were flexible in your job. The one example that I gave you before was you stayed overtime, you were flexible, you stayed overtime to help your colleagues during the check-in process because it was a peak time, and you didn't hesitate, you didn't just follow the rule that you're from 8 to 5 in the you're from 8 to 5 at the reception and you must go at 5 o'clock. Rather than that, you showed flexibility, you didn't hesitate to stay more. At the same time, you can tell a situation when your superior have called you on your days off and asked you, Julia, you know what, could you please come today? I'm short of staff and there is a shift that needs to be covered from 3 to 11 and I would really appreciate it. So you've been flexible, you gave up on your day off, you went and you did that shift because some of your colleagues perhaps has been sick, unplanned, and or couldn't come to work, and you were willing to assist and anticipate. Find a solution, find a particular situation in which you showed flexibility and you didn't hesitate to be part of the team. Can you describe a time when you had to take charge at the situation where you had to take charge at the job? Very often, and of course this question is going to be to someone who has been working before, very often if you have been working in the customer service industry, there can be a hectic time when you are overloaded with lots of work. If you were able to observe that, again, I'm relating this to the hotels, it can be in a restaurant, and you observed that your colleague has more tables to serve and you were left only with 2 tables, or you and your colleagues were serving few tables more than your 3rd colleague. And at this time, you took your 2 colleagues, you spoke to them and you said, let's avoid problems with the customers and let's divide the tables equally now. I will take care of these 3 tables. Would you please take care of these 3 tables? And my other colleague will take care of these three tables, because we would like to minimize the complaints later on. We would like to serve the meals on time to the customers in the restaurant, or at the same time, as I said, in the reception, you've seen that few of your colleagues are struggling. You were not doing anything behind. You step out and you said to your colleagues, you know what, I will take care of this side. You ladies and gentlemen, take care of this side, and you took a charge. Although you were not a supervisor, but you were able to observe there is a hectic situation happening with dealing with loads of requests, and you acted as a manager. You divided the job and you made it the satisfaction of the customer more effective, and you minimize the tension, you minimize the overload of work, which later on can lead to possible problems. And this will be very, very appreciated from the recruitment team if they observe that you are able to see when you're able to see that the workforce is not equal towards the workers. Doesn't matter if it's a restaurant or if it's a reception, and they will really, as I said, they will really appreciate it. So therefore, try to look for a particular situation in which you act again. Don't lie. If you didn't have this kind of situation, try to think of a situation where you have observed that someone has done that, and that's you've learned from this situation, and you are going to practice this in future. And this also will be something that they will appreciate, because lying and inventing a situation which you were not participating in is pretty much, the recruitment team are very experienced and definitely will know about it. Have you ever had a deadline? Definitely. Who didn't have a deadline? Of course we had. And we had a deadline when we were going to university to give the documents, and you can always say that having a deadline is something that is motivation for you to do things faster. Having a deadline to apply for certain job vacancy is also stimulation for you when it comes to preparing the documents, and you are always feeling productive when you know that there is a deadline around you for certain things for application, and that this deadline is always something that is motivating you to finish things faster. That's how I would answer this question. Describe a time you worked as part of a team and it failed due to one or a couple of people. This is something that can be happening in your previous job, or it can happen in university or in high school, depends on where you were studying. And the recruiters, what they're looking for is not the perfect answer that you haven't had a failure here. They are looking for when that failure in the team, you were not able to achieve that success and complete the task due to the failure of that one or two person. They would like to know, did you observe, were you able to observe that these people were not completing their tasks? Not necessarily in school, you're supposed to tell to the people who didn't complete their task, and which blame was to blame them for not completing the task and for having failure. But they are just looking for, were you able to know that these particular people didn't, the particular things that these people didn't do. Basically, they want to know how observant you were. I have had many situations in university in which we have failed due to few people not being able to anticipate in the team. We had a lot of physical activities, a lot of running, a lot of things we were doing in team. Sometimes we were not winning because these two people were not able to run as fast as the others, and therefore we were not completing the task properly. But as I said, when I was observing these things, and when I was observing that these people didn't do well, at the same time I observed that our team manager was talking to them, was giving them tips on later on how they can improve in this area and how they can improve their running and their strength. So later on we were able to achieve better results when this team activity was required and we were the same people in the team. They are basically looking for how observant you are, what was the action taken from the team leader of that particular team you were in, and did something in future to get improved, or it was just a failure due to these two people. You're really sorry and that's all about it. Or again, please try to avoid to say I've never been in a team and I don't know for sure in your life, in your work, in your education, you've been part of a team and your team haven't succeeded due to a failure of few people, and were you able to observe that failure and what did the team leader do about it? Will really give the impression to the recruiter that you are able to be observant and have an eye for details. Give me an example of a time when you did not agree with your supervisor. What was it and what did you do? There's been so many situations in my previous job when I didn't agree with my supervisor, and in every situation that I didn't agree with my supervisor, I always spoke about it with him and her, and I always try to look for the better solution. You can always mention this to your previous experience. If you had a customer experience, if you haven't been employed before, you're most probably not going to answer this question because you haven't had any supervisor. But at the same time, please try to look for a situation in which you had to speak to your supervisor and had to tell your supervisor, ma'am or sir, I certainly believe that this solution is not going to be beneficial for the company. Okay, because every solution that we have on board or we have in any customer service industry must fulfill the condition how beneficial it is for the company, how it's going to affect the customer, and at the same time how it is affecting you as an employee. So if you think that your supervisor has been asking you something to do which is not proper way to deal with the customer, for example, your supervisor told you, oh, I just don't, just leave this customer, it's okay, he can go. You wouldn't agree with this solution, right? You don't want to leave the customer, he can go. You just would like to make sure that his request has been taken care of, you have noted down, you completely agree with what he said, you paraphrase it, you want to show that to this customer, even though you don't have the proper solution for it, that you care, and then at the same time dealing with your supervisor at the right way and showing to your supervisor that this particular situation, we have to show care to the customer even when we don't have resources, will be very much appreciated. Now, don't tell to the recruiter that you fight with your supervisor, because that's not the proper way to answer this question. You must give an example in which you were talking, you were understood, and at the same time you didn't just blankly follow what your supervisor said, but rather than that you were identifying the area that was not correct, you were highlighting that area that was not correct, and you helped to your supervisor together to look for the proper solution when dealing with a particular customer. Describe a time when you had to deal with conflicting demands. Very, very sensitive question. This is tricky. You have to, as all the tricky questions that I say, you have to answer this very diplomatically. I have had a lot of conflict demands from the customer as someone who's experienced in the airline industry. One of it that I can mention is one of the customer wants to recline the seat, the other one doesn't want to recline the seat. They're calling me and they start fighting, and now my role in the aircraft is security. I have to make sure that I solve this problem, minimizing the conflicts and being very diplomatic on both sides. So perhaps you had a conflict situation where one customer was standing at the reception, again I'm saying this, standing at the reception, and there was another one who just comes straight away in front of this customer and tries to ask something. What do you do in this conflict situation when the two customers perhaps might start arguing between each other. You are the person behind the desk. Do you have a power to do something? My answer would be yes, you have power to do something. What did you do about it? For me, I would say, ma'am or sir, could you please just give me a moment? I will be right finished now with the customer who was standing here. I will be right back to you. Could you please give me just a moment to finish? Or perhaps if I see that my colleague is not doing anything and it's free, I will say, just give me one moment. I will call my colleague and I will hand over the customer who came straight away, and I'm going to be straight away dealing with this customer here. At the same time, you are trying to avoid the conflict situation. You're trying to minimize the tension. You're trying to avoid argument, even though you will not be included in that argument in the first place. The argument will be between the two customers, but yet you're going to show to the recruiters that you are doing something to minimize the conflict. Do you have any blind spots? This is a question that is pretty much same with the question, do you have any weaknesses? And definitely honesty would be very appreciated, but not to the highest level of saying all your weaknesses. Again, please be very diplomatic when you will be answering this question. At the same time, the recruiters would like to know what have you done about that blind spot, about that weaknesses? Are you doing something about it? I would answer this question in a way. When I started my university, there was a subject which was the physical activity. I was very much weak in that, as I was not so much into sports. But then later on, what did happen is I have enrolled into sports classes. I started practicing judo and karate, and then later on these two sports have helped me to become better in the physical activities I was doing at university, and that's the only blind spot I'm aware of that I was able to overcome. At the same time, you are showing to the recruiter that you are completely aware of an area that required development. One example before that I mentioned was also the feedback. You're a person who likes to receive feedback, but then you had difficult times in giving feedback, and you've overcome this situation by start practicing giving feedback to your friends, to your family members. You tried an area which you've tried situations in which, for example, you were not happy with their behavior, and or they did something that you didn't like, and you started doing with implementing this with your people, and then later on this became a no problem for you in your job, in your future role. Perhaps you were a supervisor, but definitely the recruiters would like to know about weakness that you are aware of, and are you doing something about it? A very interesting question is coming up. Describe a time where you were faced with a customer of a different background and you had to change the way you communicated and behaved towards them. For me, many situations like this, since from school itself, because I had part-time of my education. I was studying in Canada, and I was interacting with students and with classmates from all over the world, but at the same time later on as a cabin crew I was interacting with loads of customers with different cultural backgrounds, which I had to change my behavior. So definitely one of the work experience I would mention is I had a flight with a lot of Koreans, and there was like very few customers who spoke English. So while doing the service, I wrote down all the meal choices that I had in Korean, and I learned them. So when I was asking the customers what would they like to eat, I was using the words of a chicken or beef or vegetarian in Korean, and the customers really appreciate it. So what did you do in this situation? What did I do in this situation? I didn't just stick to the language that it's official for me to communicate, although I'm not a Korean speaker, but I was initiative. There are 3 or 4 words that I learned in just 5 minutes that later on really made the customer feel comfortable. I gave the customer the choices. I didn't leave the customers unattended. So try to find an area in which language, try to find an example, and I'm sure you've been in a situation in which there was a language barrier, but you did something about it, and you made that person who you and him don't speak the same language, understand a particular message that you wanted to send. And believe me, the recruitment team will really, really love this example that you went beyond what is the limit of your knowledge, and you made the customers or the people you interacted with happy about it, and you at the same time you didn't hesitate to do that. Give me an example of a situation where you had to be diplomatic with the customer. Again, from my experience, a lot of situations when I had to be diplomatic with the customer. One of the situations that I was facing very frequently was customers who wanted to use electronic cigarettes on board, although they were not allowed. But then I had to explain to these customers that if they were using the electrical cigarettes on board the aircraft, if they were allowed, perhaps later on some other customers would be thinking that smoking is in general allowed in the aircraft. So in order to minimize the possible problem that can arise, it's better not to use the electrical cigarettes on board. So my answer to say to the customer, no, it's not allowed using the electrical cigarettes. You know, we're saying this in the welcome announcement, electrical cigarettes are not allowed. Instead of saying it in this way, I said it in a diplomatic way, which made him definitely agree with me that yeah, we would like to really minimize the possible problems of someone else actually later on lighting up a real cigarette and exposing all of us in danger. So just try to find a situation in which you said to the customer, no, this is not allowed, but you said it in a diplomatic way that make him understood and make him willingly comply with the procedure. That it's obviously it's a procedure, doesn't matter if it's on board or if it's or if it's a customer related to a service in the hotel, in a restaurant, but try to find a time when you said to the customer no with a diplomatic way where he agreed and he didn't hesitate to agree with it, and you both were happy about the outcome. Give me an example where you had to say no to the customer. The most sensitive question for me. In the aircraft, in Qatar Airways, we really avoid saying no to the customer. Sometimes there was a situation where you have to say no to the customer, but how do you say that no really is important. When you say no, for example, you're running out of chicken choice, there's no more chicken choice, and you must say no to the customer because the only choice left is beef and vegetarian. You are saying no to the customer, but yet you are giving a solution, which means you have beef option and you have a vegetarian option. Don't forget that any situation in which you have said no to the customer, you didn't tell him, no, we don't have food. Yet we gave to that particular customer an option that food is still available. It's the other two options that we have them on board, but the customer is not left without food, or you have given an extra bag, you have given an extra salad. These are the items that we have on board as products. If this was in a restaurant and, for example, in the menu the customer really wanted to have a beef tenderloin, and unfortunately the beef tenderloin that is written in the menu it's not available, but you had another option that was beef, you still give that option to the customer, although you said no. Please, the recruiters are not looking so much that you said no, they are looking, did you give a solution after that no? Did you give any choice after that no? Or you just said no, we don't have it, and you left? Rather than, yes, I said no, but I also gave this options of so and so and so, and he or she, the customer, was not left with the impression that you are not doing anything. You just said no and you disappeared. You still yet stayed there, and still there were options over. Try to look for a particular example like this. Give me an example of a situation when you did something extra for your customer, and what was it? I'm sure many of you working in the customer service industry or in any other job, you have done something extra for your colleague, for your customer, and you have done something particular about someone. You can mention any situation. For example, for me, in the aircraft, thousands of situations, but I'll relate this to, let's say, to the hotel service. If you were a receptionist, then there was a customer who has come to you and asked you for one of the examples that I told you, asked you for a car rental service. You didn't have a car rental service in the hotel. What you did is you took the time, you took a few numbers of car rental services on the internet from that place where the hotel is. You give these numbers to the customer, and you showed that you just didn't leave the customer unattended in this matter. You just didn't leave him like, here is the internet server for you and just go and look for it. But rather than that, you did something about him. And of course, don't forget to say that the customer really, really appreciate it. What is your strength? You're applying for the cabin crew job. Definitely looking for strength when it comes to communicating with people would be very important. And one thing that I would mention from my side, my strength is being able to listen to customers' needs and being able to observe customers' needs even without I have been asked for assistance. The moment I see someone standing and looking around, I have a clear picture in my head that this person is looking for something, and if I'm there and if I'm close, I'm just going to straight away and go and say, sir, ma'am, how may I best assist you? I think this is one of the biggest strengths that I have. Another thing I would say is when it comes to problem solving, I always look for solution. I am looking for the resource. I always think about the resources that I have available around me that are going to help me to bring the best solution in solving the problem. Think about yourself. What are your strengths when it comes to communicating with people? Are you able to solve conflicts between two people? Perhaps you're a good mediator. Just try to look for that strength within you and straight away say it to the recruitment team. Definitely going straight to the point will be much appreciated than just talking general and not being able to describe a particular strength of yours. What are your weaknesses? Again, the same question is, do you have blind spots? Definitely, again, answer as something that you are you were pretty much aware that you were not so good at, you worked on it, today you're happy, you have achieved something on that area, and you're still working on it, and it's still giving you better results when it comes to receiving feedback, improving your physical condition. Just find any area that you're currently working on or you have worked on, and definitely the recruiters will like the precise answer that you're going to give on this question. Just don't say that I don't have any weaknesses, I'm the perfect person. This is not what they're looking for. An interesting question is coming up. It says, tell me about a time when you had to deal with a coworker who wasn't doing his or her fair share of the work. What did you do and what was the outcome? Definitely, we all have been in this situation when our coworker wasn't doing something. I think the best answer to say this question is you have been able to observe that some of your coworkers was just trying to escape and not doing the same as you, and therefore the job was overloading and the service was or the checking in was slower, and you have identified this, yet you didn't straight away jump and accuse your coworker that it's not doing anything. You offered your assistance, you were assertive, you offered your assistance to the coworker, and you spoke to him or her that perhaps if we could do this faster, we can both, as workers, we can both benefit from the same. Please, one thing that you should mention when you answer this question is you didn't gossip with the others around you. You didn't just took the time, sit and talk, oh, she's very lazy, she's very slow, and yeah, basically that's the most wrong thing you should do. But rather than that, when you observe that that co-worker wasn't doing his or her job, you were assertive, you offered assistance, and you spoke to that person that we should together be running with the same speed towards the same goal. Now the outcome of that situation can be different because the co-worker can cope with what you said and have coped with what you said. But if in that situation the coworker hasn't coped with what you said, now it comes the time, and hasn't coped with your assistance, maybe you were not even appreciated, now comes the time when you're supposed to speak with your manager, again avoiding gossips with your other co-workers, with the other colleagues, but you are addressing this matter straight away to the point, to your manager, to your supervisor. Another thing you should bear in mind, and when you are answering these things, when you're answering this question, you are telling to the recruiter, you just didn't leave the service, you didn't leave the check-in. Our priority at that moment was delivering the service to the customers, therefore I was assisting this colleague. Later on, I spoke to her, and this was the outcome, and then later on I spoke to my supervisor if the outcome was not the same, and she kept on doing the same things, because number one priority is finishing the service on time, or finishing the check-in on time in the hotel, delivering the meals in the restaurant on time. Don't forget that whatever you were doing, you didn't just leave it unattended because that coworker was lazy and you just had to go and talk to your manager. Rather than that, you were caring towards the customers, you were caring towards your co-worker who was lazy. Maybe he or she had a reason to do that, you never know. Maybe she was the one who just needed that little bit of push to run with the same speed as you. And then the last resort would be, in this situation, you spoke to your manager, to your supervisor, when this wasn't when you were not getting the desired outcome of that situation. Give me a situation of a time when you did something wrong, and example of when you did something wrong, and how did you handle it? Obviously, mistakes are part of our daily lives, and again here the recruiters are not looking so much of the mistake that you have done. They would like to know how aware you are that you have done a mistake, and then the most important is how have you handled that mistake. In my case, when I was working in economy class and in business class, I've done so many mistakes in terms of delivering wrong meals to the customers. If, for example, a customer would ask me for beef, I would give by mistake the chicken. And how do I handle it? I immediately apologize to the customer, and I immediately offer him to give him the proper meal choice that he asked. Definitely later on I was informing my supervisor about it, so to ensure that the customer wouldn't leave the aircraft unhappy. So when you are handling any situation in which the customer wasn't happy, you did a mistake, please make sure that you are able to acknowledge the mistake that you have done, and at the same time what the recruiters are looking for is responsibility. They are looking for candidates who have an ability to take a responsibility. Then later on offer the proper chain of dealing with that customer complaint. If it arises, if it doesn't arise, then it's okay, but still you have to inform your supervisor, you have to follow the protocol and recover from that mistake on the best way. But please be criticize yourself that it's a mistake, and that you are acknowledging that mistake, and you're not just ignoring, okay, I just give this wrong meal choice and I'll disappear. No, you must acknowledge, and later on, as I said, follow the protocol. A very interesting question is coming up. Describe how would you handle a situation if you were required to finish multiple tasks by the end of the day and there was no conceivable way that you could finish them. Now, a hard question, but what the recruiters here are looking for is basically how well do you prioritize. In our daily work, in our daily job, we are dealing with so many requests, with so much of a job that sometimes one full working day is not enough. For me, I would say that I was giving, for example, I had to apply, I had to do a multiple e-learnings online that finishing them in one day wasn't simply, and at the same time in that day I was supposed to go and change my uniform. I was doing the e-learnings. I just came back from a flight. The day was shortened for me, and what did I do is I prioritized. I came back from the flight. If I checked my schedule and I saw that for the e-learnings, I still have 2 more hours of the next day. So what I did is I set up my alarm to wake up earlier the next day to finish my e-learnings. In the meantime, the deadline for my uniform was that day. I was supposed to go and change the uniform, so I went and I changed the uniform. So basically what the recruiters are looking for here is, from all the tasks and all the job that you were given in that one time, are you able to prioritize, and how well do you organize yourself? So just look for that particular situation in which one your tasks, you were overloaded with lots of tasks, but how did you prioritize your duties in that day? Because if you could left something for the next day, you had, let's say, a couple of hours, you've set up the alarm to wake up earlier the next day, that will be very much appreciated. Look for that type of answer, please. Tell me a time when you misjudged a person. Wow, my favorite question. It happened to me so many times that I have misjudged a person just by the physical expression. It happened to me that I have came to an interaction with the salesperson who wasn't smiling to me, and I'm a very smiling person. So I was standing and my turn was coming in the supermarket, and just the salesperson wasn't smiling, and I really thought that this is going to be a horrible process I'm gonna go through, because I had a lot of things. And then I forgot that this particular situation, I forgot to measure the fruits and vegetables. This was in Germany. That time I didn't speak German, so I didn't know that I'm supposed to measure myself the fruits and vegetables. And then I felt that when the lady told me that no, it's not measured, I thought that she is going to make my life miserable. Yet she helped me together to measure everything, to come back, and I wasn't expecting, because I was seriously thinking that because she's not smiling to me, this is gonna be a hell for me. But that was one time when I misjudged someone, but I definitely try to avoid misjudging. And yeah, when you give this answer to the recruiters, please don't say I never misjudge person. Rather than that, they want to know a situation when you misjudged and when you self-corrected yourself that misjudging is wrong. This is the type of answer they're looking for. How long do you expect to work for us if hired? Definitely, you should assure your recruiters that you are looking for a career. You're not just there to go and fly for 1 year and 2 years and go back. I seriously think that they are very responsibly saying this question, and they have a reason to do that. Definitely, one thing, as I said, is like show your recruiter that you're looking for career growth in the airline, and that you are really hoping to see yourself in 5 to 6 years in the supervisory position, and later on again growing, and that this is going to, that you are basically looking for a career progress within the airline. What did you do to prepare for this interview? Wow, interesting question. Definitely one thing I would never say, oh, I was studying very hard, because at the end of the day, the interview is experience-based, it's a personality-based interview. You cannot study your experience, you cannot study your personality. You can always give an impression to your recruiter and say, I prepared for this interview the way I dressed up properly, and I am here sitting with all the positive energy that I am possessing with me, and this is just the way I prepared. I was not doing any extra studies, because I strongly believe that you as a recruiter and me as a potential employee, we should be establishing here in a communication in which I am able to sell myself in the proper, in the best way I can, based on my experience and based on my personality that I am. So therefore, I don't think that I needed to necessarily study, especially for this interview. This is how I would answer. How would you react if we asked you to change your appearance to fit in with our company? Now, this is also a tricky question, because you definitely shouldn't give the impression to your recruiter to say, yes, I'm really willing to do anything that you are going to ask me. You have to give a diplomatic answer and say, definitely, I am aware that certain things I might change. For example, the hair color, if you have highlights. This is a question that most probably the recruiters would ask you if your hair is not the same color. You should say that if my appearance doesn't fit certain standards, I'm definitely very open to listen what you are going to tell me. Getting the job in this airline is of a high importance for me, and at the same time I'm really willing to know what are the things that I'm supposed to change to be able to fit in the standards with the standards companies. Now, what are you saying with this question to the recruiters? You are definitely telling them that you are very open for collaboration, but at the same time you are a very good listener, but at the same time you're not saying to them, I will do anything what it takes. You are saying I will do anything what it takes, but in a very stylish and a manner that is a little classy, and that is giving them an impression that you are still you're still a person, you're still not someone who's gonna do anything immediately, but yes, you are willing to do that with a style, with a class, with a thinking, and with a will. What is more important for you, the money or the work? I would answer this that both things combined together are bringing the perfect satisfaction within me as a person. You can't just say that you're there only for the work, because we all know that's not true. At the same time, you are valuing the money that you are going to be getting, but first you are going to focus as well on the work. So therefore, when you are giving this answer on this question, make sure you mention that both things are equally important to you, and then you cannot say that one thing is more important than the other, as both in the airline industry or in any job itself, they are both very much connected, and you both value with equal standards, and they're both important to you. They also might ask you, are you applying for other airlines? What if more than one airline offers you the job? Again, a tricky question. If you haven't applied for other airline, you can say no, I have just applied for Qatar Airways. If you have applied for other airline, you can say yes, I have been trying with few airlines, but definitely if Qatar Airways hires me, this is my priority and this is my dream. I would personally suggest on this question, just answer that you have applied at this moment. You can say at this moment, at this particular time, I have been applying only for Qatar Airways. That's it. The most important and most famous question is, why should we hire you? And remember, I've spoken in the previous video a similar question like this, why should we hire you? Don't focus too much that the airline should hire you because you've had a great customer experience in your previous job, that you're so good. Because the airline is not looking so much into candidates who have a lot of experience. Yes, they want to know if you have had experience, and if you had experience before, it's pretty much appreciated, but the airlines are looking for learners. They are looking for disciplined workers. They are looking for dedicated workers. They're looking for people who can be leaders, who can be followers, who can be motivators. When you're giving this answer to your recruiter, show to them that you will be a member of the team that is going to be disciplined, it's going to be dedicated, it's going to be studying and working hard, it's going to be learning fast and implementing fast all those procedures that the airlines are changing on daily basis in order to keep the customer satisfaction on the highest level, and at the same time show them that you are going to be a valid member of the best airline in the world based on these characteristics that you have said. At the same time, when you are answering this question, one thing that I've always said to the candidates is, please show them that you are going to be a worker who's going to be working with a vision. Show them that you have a goal. Let's say your goal would be that you would like next year in 2020 Qatar Airways to win in the category Best Cabin Crew in the World. Show to them that you are going to be a dedicated member based on those skills that I mentioned, and you are going to help and contribute in a team that is going to be winning the Best Cabin Crew in the World award category as well on the Skytrax. Mention a particular goal of yours, a particular way how you're gonna complete your vision, and believe me, you will nail if you use this answer. Do you have any questions for me? This interview question can come up, of course, and it's an interesting one because I seriously think that as a possible future employee, if you have been asked this question, this is something that the recruiters don't do so often. And if they have asked you this question, you should be asking something, but you should be thinking what you're gonna ask something. So you can always answer this question with a question, because you've been asked to ask a question, right? And you can always ask the recruiter in a way, ma'am, I really appreciate your rich experience in this area. When it comes to cabin crew and recruitment, would you please share with me some tips and some informations, or if I become the future cabin crew later on, would be beneficial for me. Now, what are you saying with this question? You're definitely highlighting the rich experience the recruiter has. You are showing an interest in the future career that you might getting chosen with, and at the same time you are showing and you are displaying a willingness to learn. With having all this said, this video is gonna finish. It's quite long. I hope I guys helped you with answering this question. I'm gonna be seeing you very soon in another video with the other 40 questions that are left. In the meantime, please don't forget to create your answers using my guidelines, but be yourself, please. Create short, create concise, and create precise answers of this question, and definitely you won't go wrong. Bye bye and have a nice day.